All right, everyone. Thank you again so much for joining me today. With me is another amazing interview with an amazing speaker, and I can't wait to introduce him to you all. He is a business growth coach, a speaker, a best-selling author. He grew up in the Midwest, but has spent over half of his life in Phoenix metro area. He has worked with entrepreneurs, business leaders, and sales managers as a coach and mentor for over 25 years. His passion for helping people perform at their very best has been paramount to his success. The Get Squared process that he has used with his clients for years has helped numerous people to achieve success in their goal setting. And with me today, I'm so delighted to have him on the show. Mr. Paul, help me. I know you're very particular with your last name.
Moehring.
Moehring. Thank you. Welcome, Paul, to the show.
Thank you. And I think just after that intro, we can just drop the mic and be done for the day.
No. We haven't gotten to the best part of our segment today, which is we really get to know you by starting with me asking, Paul, share with us, what is your story and what inspired you to do what you do today?
Great. And I'll try to keep it somewhat brief because it goes a long way back. I've always loved coaching. And I think in 5th or 6th grade, I was already coaching Little League football.
Oh, yes.
And it just went from there. When I was in sports in school, I always ended up being one of the captains. And then in college, same kind of thing. So I've always loved coaching. And what I love about coaching is giving the person a little bit of fuel to run their engine and then watching them take off. It's so rewarding to see that takeoff part. And so I decided to make the leap into full-time coaching in January of 2020. And at that time, I had spent 27 years in the insurance industry, loved it, enjoyed it, but the position I had was a coaching style position that I could only spend about 5% of my time doing coaching. So I knew to myself, all right, in my next life, I'm going to be a business coach, and that's what I'm going to do. So I jumped out of the airplane in January of 2020. Luckily, I had a parachute on and gave it a shot. I went to 26 networking meetings in the first 30 days. Yes. And if you're paying attention to the dates, that's all great, except for COVID shut those down. I had a couple of speaking gigs set up because I like to speak to get clients as well. And I got to the first 2 and COVID shut those down. So then I shifted gears, wrote my book, Get Squared. And that was really a big plus for me because I'd been working on getting a book done for 10 or 15 years. And finally, COVID shutting down some of these other pieces helped me get that going. So got that book done, got it on the Amazon bestseller list, and then, just continue to grow the coaching and speaking business from there.
Yes, that's so amazing and incredible. So what's Get Squared all about? I would love the audience to learn more about it. That's actually how we found you, but I would love for you to share a tidbit about the book and how that is now the work that you do in terms of impacting your clients' lives.
Yeah. Well, what I found when I would go out with my sales manager hat, and my job, I had a lot of different hats that I wore. One was the coaching hat and one was the sales manager hat. And when I would go out and review with my business owners, their plans and goals, I found out pretty quickly that they weren't taking the process very seriously. So if I were to just try it, I would call the business owner a week later and say, hey, you know what? I forgot to take a copy of your plans. Could you send them over to me? And they wouldn't be able to find them already that we had just done the week before. And I wanted to also build the relationship and then build them up as people, because in any organization, if your people get better every year or every week or every month, then your organization is going to expand with that. So when I would go out and visit with them, I broke down their goals into 4 categories. I gave them a business goal quadrant to fill out, and this is in the square, as you can imagine, a business, a personal, a spiritual, and a family. And then I would tell them, hey, put these in order of importance first. That's the first thing we've got to do, put them in order of importance. And a lot of times the business owner would say, hey, Paul, I just want you to know business isn't the most important. And I'd say, well, I hope not. I mean, you got a family, right? I know your wife, your husband, your kids. I mean, of course you gotta, I hope, I'm not going to fill this out for you, but I hope that your goals for the family are more important than your business. And it kind of broke down some of those barriers. And then they started setting some goals at home, and they would go home and talk to their family about different things that they wanted to do. And it just really felt great to hear them using the tool and using it effectively. Well, if they're better at home, they're better at work.
Yes.
So if they've got their life in check and all of the quadrants are being met and fed, then they're going to be better at work. So I benefited from it, from the downside or down the road a little ways to get those benefits. But it really was a remarkable process to watch happen. So I thought, why not write a book about that? I've tested it for, oh my gosh, by the time I put the book out, it had been 16 years since I've been using that tool. And it was irreplaceable for me in my organization.
Yes. And so what's really interesting is we actually put a lot of emphasis, even in our family and especially in our business too. One of the interviewing questions that I even have for my employees, it's what are some of your personal or professional goals? So just to see where the person is in terms of their priorities. And what's interesting is you're right. Most people don't have personal goals. Not to even mention, where do you want to go with your career? I mean, when in our entrepreneurship journey, I mean, in mine, it was the first thing that we have to figure out. What do we want this business to look like? What is it going to be? And who do we want to serve? So my question for the audience, on behalf of the audience, would be, so why do you think goal setting isn't already a habit? Or is it because is it not taught to us? I would be curious to know, because like you said, your people weren't taking it seriously initially.
I think the biggest reason is that goal setting is a skill and it has to be developed and worked. And when I started in the business, I wasn't very good at setting goals. And I remember I sat down with my manager and he showed me his goal process, and I looked at it and thought, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to learn how to do all of that. You've got to be kidding me. And I asked him, I said, is it really worth all the work, or do you just do this during the first month of the year and then forget about it? He said, no, I do it, I track it, I look at it on a monthly, weekly basis, and it makes a difference long term. You just got to try it, you'll figure it out for yourself, but just give it a try. The thing is, for people though, we don't like failure. Fear of failure is higher on the list of things that people are afraid of than fear of dying, for crying out loud. So people also don't like public speaking, right? So the fear of failure is so strong that if we start setting goals and we do it the wrong way and we start failing, well, then why would we do that anymore? Let's take it to the playground. All right. I always like sports, but I'm going to take it to the playground. And if you're in second grade and you're on the playground and you're the shortest kid out there, it's going to be hard to play basketball unless you're really, really fast and you're going to be a point guard, right? You're probably not going to line up as the power forward on the basketball team. Why? Because you're going to get stuffed every time you try to get that ball up in the air. Okay. So people don't like to fail. If they're doing it wrong enough, then they just say, nah, forget it. I'm not going to do that anymore. So in the research that I did, only 4% of people were hitting their goals. And a lot of them, a lot of the reason for failure might be that person that's had too many cocktails on New Year's Eve and makes all kinds of crazy goals for themselves. Like, I'm going to run a marathon in the next 3 weeks and I haven't run a mile in 5 years, right? So there's just all kinds of ways that you can do it wrong. But once you start doing it right and you put the steps in place and you give it some thought, and you don't just do it off the cuff after a few cocktails on New Year's Eve, all of a sudden you start getting into winning and taking it back to sports and taking it to the big league now, an NFL team or an NBA team. When they get on a roll and those players step on the court and they are going to win in their head, they're going to win, they are tough to beat. And that's what happens when you start winning. You don't have to be a professional athlete to experience this. When you start winning, it just compounds on itself and makes it even more and more a part of your life. And those wins, again, now you're feeling better. You come into that situation expecting to be successful, and away it goes from there.
Yeah,
Sorry,
and
I get kind of fired up and talk too much.
yeah, oh my goodness. No, absolutely. And that's why you're here. We wanted you to come and share and talk to us about, why goal setting is so important. And you definitely, there's a reason why your book is a bestseller, because absolutely, if people weren't afraid of failure, they would be setting goals. So what's really interesting, what you said earlier, was setting the right goals, right? Like learning how to set goals is one thing. Like you said, it's a skill. But what's the difference between knowing when to set the right goals, or what's the difference between the right goals and the wrong goals? I would know.
Well, in the book, the neatest thing I think that I have an aha moment with is that I remember when I went to one of my business owners' offices, and his wife was working with him. And I said, hey, I want you to fill out this goal square as well. And she was like, I don't do goals. I let my husband do the goal stuff. I don't do any goals. And I said, no, just go through the process for me. And if you could do it this way for me, I'd really appreciate it. Do it as like a test pilot for me, because I need to be able to take this to other people. So you be a test pilot for me. Okay. Well, when I got back to the office about 2 weeks later, it was the next time to go and visit these folks. When I got to the office, it was almost like she was standing out front of the office waiting for me to drive up, and she had her goal square in her hand. I'm like, uh-oh, what's this going to be about? But she was smiling, so I figured it was something good. And my assumption, what she was going to do is apologize for not doing it. But then as I got closer, I could see it was all written on. And she said, oh my gosh, this has been so cool. I can't believe it. I have never set goals in this area of my life. And my husband and I were sitting down and kind of working through some things, and I can set some goals, and there are some things I can do, and we're doing this and we're doing that. And I think to myself, wow, that's really impactful, because again, here's somebody that didn't set goals. Why didn't she set goals? Because she didn't want to be faced with losing or failing at setting those goals. But again, she had them in all these different quadrants of her life, and it made sense. The next thing that happened is I went to sit down with the business owner. And as we started our chat, which happened a lot during our coaching sessions, if I took a watch to it, the first 15 minutes, he would be telling me about his goals and his goal squares and his wins in all the other categories but business. So he would start out, and in this guy's particular case, he says, hey, I'm getting better at that guitar. Like, really? Yeah, I'm playing some pretty good songs. Who gives? Well, I do. I care about him as an individual. And he's proud of his guitar, and it's a win, and it's elevating his attitude. So if his attitude is elevating, then other people are drawn to him. Who is this guy? Why is he so positive? What's going on in this guy's life? I want a piece of that, And so it just kind of culminates to making a better version of yourself to go and hit the streets every day. Whatever it is that you do for work, it just makes a better version of yourself get out there.
Yeah, no, I think that's amazing. And I think what was worth mentioning, and it resonated with me when you said or shared the story of the husband and wife, how the husband was the one that was setting goals and the wife was not. And that's really interesting, because how for the longest time, I know I set goals for myself and the business, but we never have family goals. And the importance, and I wanted to share with you audience out there listening, is like setting goals is one thing, but it's also getting everyone in your community to be on the same page. And by being able to do goals together, you and your partner, your community are now on the same page. And it's easier to ride that, train or rocket or whatever you want to call it together, boat, than as if you were doing it alone. I think with setting goals, and especially fear of failure is the biggest challenge for all of us. The having a community supporting us with our goals and being able to be held accountable to our goals is important, and that's why community like that resonate with me, and I wanted to mention that just so the audience who is listening can really understand that it's not on an individual, but we start on the individual level, then from there we can collectively, win, right?
Yeah.
And because this is a win. Like we're having this conversation. I get to share your story and your work with my community and vice versa. So, and I made it a goal to create more connections this year. So it's so great how one small step for you to just get someone to sort of simply write down a goal, and you're creating that dramatic impact in everyone's life. So that's amazing. So let's switch gears a little bit if you don't mind, right? Like
Sure.
before, I know you were in insurance, you did insurance for years and etc and things like that, and now you navigated to working as a coach, especially that's something that was always there for you. What is one of your biggest challenge in making that transition and being successful at it?
The biggest challenge, I think, and I think a lot of people go through this, is just the imposter syndrome piece, where you ask yourself, am I really good enough to do this? Do I really have the skills necessary?
Mm,
Can I count on myself to be able to help people?
mm,
And every time I sit down with a coaching client, whether it's a good session or a bad session, things are going challenging for them or things are going great, right? When I get done with that coaching session, I really feel good and I feel like I poured everything that I had into it.
mhm,
And so it's just an uplifting feeling when I get through that. So kind of hard to explain how that is, but the imposter syndrome would have you saying, if you don't have the confidence to go into that situation with a confident and positive attitude, then they're going to be less likely to take your recommendations for help. So I
mm,
think that was the biggest challenge. And as I started coaching people, it reminded me quickly, hey, you're going to be fine. The thing that I did to stress myself out more is that, yeah, I had 27 years of coaching in the insurance industry, but coaching client focus for me is not the insurance industry. You
mm,
might say, well, that's not very smart. Well, it may not be smart, but when I justify it, it makes complete sense. If somebody woke me up in the middle of the night, slapped me twice, and asked me an insurance question, I would be able to answer that. I know this stuff in my sleep.
mhm,
So I thought to myself, if I go out and just coach insurance folks, I'm not going to grow as a person. So
mm,
how can I learn about different industries and be able to help people in different industries across the line of just insurance to other industries? And what I found is that the training that I had gotten for coaching was through the E-Myth. And Michael Gerber did a great job writing that book, The E-Myth, and it talks about every business has got similarities, right? So I will coach to those similarities and have great success just working through those processes with people. In fact, my favorite client that I've ever had was a lady in Australia who was in a business. She's the CEO of her company, and she was in a business that does not exist in the United States. And
mhm,
we worked together for 15 months and had plenty of ahas during the process. But it was just a great feeling to have that you're helping somebody that's in an industry you know nothing about until you got to know her and got to know what made her tick and what could help her. So it was just such a great experience. And you're always looking for those breakthroughs, because if you're a good coach and it's in you, then any win that any of your clients has is just exciting for you. I mean, you just get a kick out of it. So I find myself still feeding off of that energy as I have any time that I've been in coaching.
yes, no, that's fascinating, and I love that you're so open and honest with like what you had to go through with adjusting from one career to the next, and having to manage an imposter syndrome, right? It's so it's real in a way where I'm not a fan with calling it what it is, but that's just my own personal opinion, but it is true. It's like you're playing you've been using sports as a analogy. So you playing a new sport, there's new rules, like it's new territory. So of course, right? Like we would feel that way. And I think for now, I would want the audience to gravitate to the fact that that's the only way to grow. Like you said, you were so uncomfortable. You knew you would be more comfortable coaching insurance agents and whatnot, but then you wouldn't be growing. And so I think that's what I want the audience to resonate to, is actually go with what makes you more uncomfortable, because that's when it actually is a catalyst for you to grow faster than you would ever imagine, so that you can do what you want to do. It's all about conquering, managing fear, failure, and also just really trusting the process, as it seems like you have as well, trusting that you had whatever it takes to make a difference, in others' lives. So, and for sure, we have to learn how to set appropriate and the right goals, personally and professionally. So, Paul, tell us more about how we can find you if the audience want to be a part of your community, and what's next for you, and in the near future or long-term future.
Sure. Well, the easiest way is to just spell my name out. It's spaulmoehring.com, and hopefully it'll be on their screens as well, but that's my website. You can find me through there. What's next for me? I was so excited when I finished this book and it came to me in a hardback. I mean, I was like a little kid under the Christmas tree, but I bought myself the gift. So, I don't know how that works, but I was so excited to finish this book. And then I had a friend of mine that was a networking partner of mine that read it for me. So I've got an Audible version of it, and it's just really neat. But then after you're around for 3 or 6 months and you've written that first book, all of a sudden you realize that everybody else has written 2, 3, 4, or 5 books. So you start saying to yourself, well, it's kind of like that rock band that sang that one song that made it to the top spot on the top 40. And then that's the only song they ever hit. So I am working on my next book, and I've got deadlines for myself that are already getting a little sketchy. By the end of November, I'm supposed to have it done, but I'm tinkering with some different things that are going to make it a lot more fun. So I'll see if I'll get those to come together or not. So that's going on, and just continuing to work with more and more people and learning more and more things in ways that I can help people. One of the big things in the coaching industry is that it's always nice to have people you can count on, because if somebody says to me, hey, Paul, I need bookkeeping help, do you do that? No, but I got a person. I've got somebody that can help you in that area. So I do a lot of networking, and then I pick kind of like this team around me, so that if I have to plug somebody in to handle one of my customers' needs, they know that the person is vetted by me to be a good networking partner, or somebody that's going to do good work for that client as well.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. I'm a big proponent with collaborations in that way and promoting each other's businesses, because truly, it's like creating our own community and our own little economy and supporting each other, and together we can collectively make a difference. So thank you again for your time. I'm actually really excited to go back and look at my list of goals and see if I could fill in the 4 squares. And if anything, I will definitely be reaching out to you. And of course, the audience, I know, value your knowledge tremendously, and they can definitely get onto your website to get connected with you. And thank you again for everything. Thank you for working on a second book as well. I can't wait to hear what it's all about, but putting your work and knowledge out there into the world and making a big difference for all of us. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you for the invite, Dee. And one thing I'll mention is that this to me is a stage because of virtual, and that makes it a possibility for me to hit my goal for the next 12 months, which is 50 stages in the next 12 months. And so if anybody has any stages that they're sponsoring, I would be happy to come and help out and fill your spots.
Absolutely. What an amazing goal. So amazing. Yes, definitely. You guys hear it. Like, let's say if you are interested in talking about what Paul is the expert in, which is being productive and setting appropriate goals, please reach out. And thank you again for your time. And for sure, you are on the list of returning guest speakers for sure.
Thank you.